Like, don't you want to look at the map and be like, you are here and it's just in the shittiest place? You're like, well, that makes sense. Nothing. And there's nothing you're doing that's new. Like, everybody has been in the same situation that you have. Like, you can have access to that. This story of Cassidy Hutchins, you might have seen her. You might have seen her a couple of years ago, like, going up against Trump. And it's like, you worked with Trump and you're just going to, like, spill the beans and say, like, yeah, he did a lot of bad things behind the stage. And you're like, hey, psst, hey, kid, do you know how this story ends out? Like, do you know where you are in the story? Do you think that you were the first one to see a politician do bad stuff behind the scenes? Like,
let me get this straight. You think that your client, one of the wealthiest, most powerful men in the world, is secretly a vigilante who spends his nights speeding criminals to a pulp with his bare hands? And your plan is to blackmail this person? Good luck.
You know what's coming, right? And then on the thing, it said, she's like, 26-year-old Cassidy. I'm like, there's a problem. You're 26. I didn't realize she was that young. It's like, oh, you don't. This is your first fucking go-around. You have not seen this, right? So this story of, oh, boy, did she fucking learn the hard way. You know, she went up and, like, telling all that, tattletelling on Trump. The guy who's like, look, man, I've been doing this from the fucking 60s. Like, you want to go to war? Let's fucking go to war, right? It's really hard as a kid. Like, you can't even, you can only look down, is what I'm seeing. Like, you can only see people below you, right? So if you're in college, you can only really see high school. If you're in high school, you can only really see junior high. Like, you can't see what the people in the higher levels are doing because you're not there yet. You can only see what you believe. You know what I'm saying? Of course, that doesn't go well for her because now she's getting attacked from, you know, the mob and all these mysterious bad forces start happening to her. Oh, weird, right? But what was so good is that Cassidy figured out the fucking joke. In the middle of hell, she went, wait a minute. I bet you I'm not the only one to go through something like this. Where the hell am I on the map?
Were/are/coming out of hiding.
For Cassidy Hutchinson, the past 2 years haven't exactly been a day at the beach.
Like, I go out in limited capacities, but, you know, part of it is for security.
She's basically been off the radar since that day last summer, when she found herself in the eye of a political hurricane. In June 2022, Hutchinson, then 26 and a former senior advisor to Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, testified before the January 6th committee, and she didn't hold back.
As an American, I was disgusted.
She just tells all the ST. All the ST and can't see the NF coming. So gets in a lot of trouble. One of the favorite stories, I grabbed this clip, was this funny story of Trump in the limo on January 6th. So he wants to go, like, join the mob and, like, riot with the mob, you know? And the Secret Service are like, no, we need to go. Let's go. Let's move away from danger. And he's, like, so upset and so mad that he reached over and tried to grab the steering wheel. And then, of course, like, you know, denies it. No, I didn't do that. I don't know karate. I don't know kung fu. I didn't fight these guys. But the Secret Service agents that were there, they're like, yeah, he grabbed for us. And so the agents told Cassidy. But the agents also know, look, there's a lot of crazy shit that goes on here. You don't say fucking nothing, right? Right? But Cassidy's like, oh, I gotta go tell everybody. I'm like, oh, okay. We'll see how that works out.
Where the president was said to have insisted on being taken to Capitol Hill to join his supporters.
The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel. And when Mr. Renato had recounted the story to me, he had motioned towards his clavicles.
I love watching the blind spots of ST, like, as an NF. You know what I'm saying? Paper, scissors, rock. It's like, you know, I have a hard time with ST and I get my ass kicked all day long, but that's not the whole story. There's times where I'm watching STs and I'm like, you idiots, you can't. You don't want to start sharing all the details here. Careful, like, do you know what's coming for you fucking tomorrow, right? What's weird, she just wasn't expecting it because she thinks, like, oh, if I go tell the teachers, if I go tell the good guys, then they'll protect me. And they're like, look, we're just as scared as you are. We got all sorts of games going on, you know? So she finds, I think it was Nixon, and the guy is still around. He's like 97. So this happened, you know, this happens every 20, 30, 40 years or whatever. This happened with Nixon, where you get some crazy-ass president where other people had to rise up and be like, all right, look, we got to fucking do something about this, you know? Now, if you've ever, maybe you've been in this, like you'll see this in schools or at churches especially, where if you're hanging around, like, they'll have to get rid of the pastor because he's doing a lot of bad things. And so, like, this kind of stuff happens a lot, you know? So if you can find somebody that's been through it, that's the biggest thing. If your friends and family that haven't gone down to this level of hell where you're at, they can't fucking help you. They're just like, hey, dumbass, you shouldn't be there. You did everything wrong. Just don't stop being there. And there's just going to be no help to you. But somewhere, probably not in your town, somewhere on the internet, there is somebody that has lived through the fucking hell that you're going through. And if you can find that Bible, you're more than halfway done.
So, as she struggled with the thought of betraying her coworkers, Hutchinson started Googling another landmark D.C. hearing, Watergate, and found Alexander Butterfield, the former Nixon aide who revealed the existence of the White House taping system and helped bring down a president.
As far as you know.
That's correct.
Butterfield's story became her beacon of hope, and the Bob Woodward book about him, The Last of the President's Men, became her Bible. She usually keeps her well-worn copy close at hand.
And he really was the source of strength for me and gave me the perspective that not only that I could do this, but that there was life on the other side of it.
Right, and it's the biggest thing when I'm talking to people that come through the video typing, especially young kids that are like in their early 20s and they're going through hell. It's like, hey kid, I can see you on the map. You're getting your midlife crisis over with early. You're trying to figure out, who am I? I've got years of abuse I've coming through. I'm all scared. I'm sad. Like, hey, this is what the bottom looks like. And the greatest thing, I've said this before, the greatest thing about your hardest thing, is that it literally is the hardest time in life. Okay, by definition, if you can hit the hardest time in life, that means everything after that is up. There is a bottom. And you want to be able to hit the bottom. You want to be able to get that over with. Me, personally, I'm like, I'd like to get that over with before 60, before 50, before 40. Like, there's no not going through it, okay? There's no not going through it. Here's Cassidy. She got hers early on. Lucky fucking her, right? But it's so comforting to know, and I do see a lot of comfort hitting the kids where they'll write me back and they're like, oh, okay, so this is normal. I'm like, oh yeah, and the next couple of years are going to be way fucking worse too. And they're just like kind of in a laughing state of like, no, it's okay. It's all right. It's all normal. You have a friend in the darkness.
The man who helped inspire Hutchinson to come forward, Alexander Butterfield, is now 97 and living in Southern California.
And Haldeman was a pal of mine.
And she's been able to thank him in person.
Now we're lifelong friends.
Yeah.
Here's proof. She was telling the truth.